Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Viewpoint on 96.3 FM. We have a very special guest. This man is very dear to my heart, as to many here in Logan County and our surrounding counties. He had a wonderful birthday party this past Saturday. He turned 100 years young, as we say, and still full of life and vigor and honoriness, all wrapped into one awesome package. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the show over to our one and only Mr. Bill Gossett.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Welcome to all the voters in Logan County. Remember, voting coming up when now?
In March, sir. March primary.
And
I need election judges. We need election judges.
All right, now this is important. This is serious business. You know, serving your country, you can do it in many ways. An election judge may be one of the most base ways you can do it, but maybe one of the most important ways. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a little extra time, think about that and go up to the courthouse and volunteer your services.
And they get paid, too. They do get paid, so for their time. Yeah. It's a wonderful time.
When you started out talking about talking to the voters, I thought maybe you were announcing you were running for office or something here.
I think I've run my term. I've run my term.
So in Bill Gossett and Judy's fashion, what? Real quick before we go to our caller. What kudos do you have for us, Bill?
Sakes. Let me put the headset on.
There you go.
Can you hear it?
Just a minute. He's getting his headset on.
Okay.
Well, go ahead. I'll try it this way.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Good morning. It's Justice John and Sally Turner.
Oh, you can't hear?
Go ahead, Jim. What did the lady say?
Yeah, here. We're going to help you get his headset on. Just a second, Sally.
Let's see.
Maybe try this.
We're getting his headset on, Sally. Bear with us here.
No worries.
No, young lady, would you repeat what you just said on with technical difficulties? The old man hadn't been around radio very long, so he doesn't know what the heck he's doing up here. Go right ahead, please.
I just said it's Justice John and Sally Turner calling in to tell you hello.
Oh, well, good morning, Senator. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Well, we're doing great. Just wanted to say hey, and we're glad to hear you on the radio again.
Hi, Bill. It's John Turner. Happy birthday again.
Justice, thank you very much. You know, I want to make a comment here with Justice Turner. We have an unusual situation here in Logan County. We have Justice John Turner on the appellate bench. We have young Tom Harris on the appellate bench. And up north from Lincoln, he lives in Bloomington, we have Justice Jim Connect. So that's kind of unusual for a county to have three men in such an important position. So thank you very much, Justice, for serving us.
Well, it's been a real pleasure and honor, and as you know, we used to be 30 counties, but with the redistricting, we now have 41 counties in the 4th District.
Oh, boy.
So,
yeah. I certainly appreciated the Turner showing up last Saturday. My eyes lit up a little bit when I saw you and the Senator walk in, and I appreciated that very, very much.
Well, thank you for all your service to us, too, Bill, because we went to many radio shows with you and Judy. Both of us have. So we're going to say thanks for that, too. And we know you're going to have lots of callers today, so we'll keep it short. So happy birthday, and we love you.
Thank you very, very much. That's humbling. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
See you. No.
Right back to you, Mrs. Entwistle.
So do you have
That was very nice.
That was very nice of them.
I really appreciate that.
Do you have a kudos or a PSA for how you always started the show off? Do you have one to start the show off this morning?
Someone you want to tip your hat to or an organization or
a food for thought?
Oh, well... just off the chest real quickly, we have Senator Turner just on there. We have some really nice people in politics that serve Logan County. Mm-hmm. I think we have a very, very strong group of people up there in the courthouse. We have nice people. They're there to serve, and they show it. And so kudos to them, and thank you very much for what you do.
Mm-hmm. You had a wonderful turnout for your birthday party.
I was my two boys and their wives really trotted out the big dog. and I really appreciated it. Kind of surprised a little bit at the turnout, but it was a wonderful thing. Mr. and Mrs. Ash came. I think she drove me out of bed, and so he came to the ground. But anyway, it was a very, very lovely day, and I'm deeply appreciative of everybody being there. And to the person who sent me a card and put 3 $2 bills in it, the money was just about right. I was about broke, so.
I saw you had some folks there that traveled a long way to see you.
Yes, that was a really very, very, and I emphasize with another very humbling thing. 2 young men who I helped raise in a way because their mother and father and I were dear friends. Brad Bushel came all the way from Connecticut, drove from Connecticut. His brother Tim and his wife Jane drove all the way up from Tennessee. Boy, if that won't touch your heart.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I begin to tear up just thinking about it seriously. Yeah.
And some people have seen that picture of you in the airplane that says, God is my co-pilot and Gene is my boss. You want to tell our listeners a little bit of history about that picture?
Well, because of my deep interest in the honor flight, somebody from the honor flight organization called me and told me that BT-13, now that was a basic trainer during World War II, bi-wing, what they call a tail dragger, and 2 cockpits. And we trained thousands of pilots in that plane. And I was asked to go over if I wanted to fly, and so I did. And Sally Joe and Larry Bomke drove all the way from Springfield to Decatur in support of me flying in that BT-13. And Sally Joe took that picture. And that's the picture you saw at last Saturday. And that had a prominent place in my heart and in my home.
It's a neat picture. That really is. Neat story.
Well, I was tickled. I had that flight helmet on, and it was a big day for the old man.
So, tell us, who's been some of your memorable folks that you've interviewed in the past years here on Viewpoint?
Well, Justice Turner, among the others.
Among others.
We have a number of folks here who serve their community in an elected position, and we've had some pretty good and maybe some not so good politicians, but we've had some really nice people, and Judy and I always appreciated other people's contributions to the community, and that's what we tried to concentrate on. People have done so much for our community, and are doing it today as I speak.
They are. They really, really are. What questions do you have for him?
I was just going to remind our listeners, if you have a question or want to wish Bill well, 217-648-5510 is the number to call, and you can speak with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Bill Gossett. I think one of the things about your show is you mentioned the elected officials and the folks who try to do things for the community. Sometimes those folks aren't real well known, and you kind of shine your Viewpoint spotlight on folks who are behind the scenes or serving in a capacity that maybe doesn't get a whole lot of publicity, but thanks to you and Judy, you kind of helped get the word out about what they're doing and the good things happening.
Well, our law enforcement officials, we've had a good chief of police, we have a good sheriff, and we always wanted to support them. And by the way, I saw the Vlakovic family showed up at my thing Saturday, which I appreciated. The old neighbors when I was a young man living on Grand Avenue. Gordy, that's a long time ago. But anyway, to be more specific, it's people like that in positions of trust, and that's certainly an important word, and people who know what they're doing, and people who have a humble attitude about serving. That's the important thing to remember, not just big I. It's the other people.
What I saw that you were given 2 recognitions at your birthday. What were those recognitions? Some of our listeners weren't aware of that.
My wife told everybody I was not a nice guy. Well, I heard from the county board of supervisors, and that was very nice. And
And then Sally brought you something too
And
from
Sally,
the Senate.
Sally, I'm sitting here thinking, Sally brought me that Senate proclamation, which was very nice. Sally Turner does a great job. She did a great job in our courthouse when she was up there in the courthouse. And she's serious about serving us. And she makes it a point to get around and see how she can help her constituents. And that's very important, not to wear a hat that's too tight for you.
And it's not always about laws and bills and passing legislation. She does, card drives and diaper drives for mothers. And,
Fundraisers, which are important.
right.
Which reminds me of one quick. There are two ladies, teachers, they have an organization called Moms Who Care. And if that isn't a great thing for the kids in the school. And so I doff my hat to those ladies.
And speaking of schools, you used to be part of the reading program.
Yes.
Now, I forgot, what school was that you went in?
Well, I met it over at Washington Monroe. We had kids who were there. But analogous to that is when Judy and I used to serve at the prison, there was an organization, ladies' organization, that sponsored this thing, and they gave the books. And we would go out once a month, and the prisoners could select from a selection of books that were scattered on the table to take them and read them over a recording to their children. And then the state the organization would send the books and the recording to the children. One day I was sitting there, and a big fella sitting there, boy, he was burly. And he's reading, and all of a sudden he started singing to this child. I sat there transfixed. The man had a great voice, and I was just really moved. It was quite an experience for the old guy. So, education, I don't think you can do enough for your community to serve your education.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I served on the school board 27 for a long time, serving on one of the best administrators anybody could ever have, Lester Dean Plotner. And when I moved to the country, I decided I wanted to continue to serve, and I went around, got petitions, was surprising all those folks who lived on farms because I thought I still lived in town. And so I ran on District 72, at West Lincoln, Broadwell.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a caller. Great.
All right. Go right ahead, please, caller.
Yes, this is Jesse Simpson. I would like to today and to tell him that he has been a heck of an inspiration to all the county.
Jesse, you said your name's Jesse Simpson, sir? I'm sorry, it kind of cut up the call, did, sir? You want to repeat that?
Yes, I would like to wish Bill a happy birthday and to inform him that he has been a very good influence on the younger people of Logan County.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. It's a very humbling experience. Thank you, sir.
And hopefully we will see you at the Veterans Breakfast at Eminence Christian Church.
Planning on being there. We're planning on being there. I live in a different setting now. I'm now at what's known as Timber Creek, but those folks at St. Clair's, or not St. Clair's, the Christian Homes, are furnishing us a bus, so I'm going to be up there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Again, to our listeners, if you do want to call in and wish your happy birthday wishes, share a story, a thought, ask Bill a question. He's here today, 217-648-5510.
And he's almost awake.
Well, you're drinking Jim's coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
It's keeping you going.
Exactly.
We have another caller. Caller, go ahead.
This is Jonathan Wright calling. Is this for Mr.
Oh, Jonathan? Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Hi, Jonathan. Hi. Bill, it's Mr. Wright.
Our Judge Wright?
Our Judge Wright is on the line.
Oh, my goodness. I think good morning, sir. How are you this morning? Jonathan cuts out.
Hey, you're
cutting out.
You're
Yeah.
cutting out on us, Jonathan. Mr. Wright.
It's good to see. By the way, I'm going to call my phone number into you so you and I can have lunch, sir.
And just thank you for always being such a great example to me.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. That's very humbling. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you, Judge.
There's a citizen who serves us well.
Yes, he does.
In many capacities, not just as a jurist.
Yes. Yes.
I have a story about that, Judge. Years ago, I was called to be on a jury, and my competitor and I, George Durker, dry cleaner, and it was the Easter season. And in those times, dry cleaners got very busy at that time. So I went to Judge Frank Bevan and see if George Durker and I could get excused for it. And he said, no, he couldn't excuse us. So it turned out that we were both on the same jury panel. And we returned a verdict about 8 o'clock that night. And the judge read the verdict. And he said, now I want to see Mr. Durker and Mr. Gossett at the bench. And we wondered what we'd done. And we went up there, and he says, I can't excuse you, but I don't want to see you in the courthouse anymore. So that was the way George and I got excused. Just
One way to do it.
You returned a swift verdict then.
That's right. We returned a swift verdict.
During Easter season. So, again, callers, the line is 217-648-5510 to call in and visit with Mr. Bill Gossett. So, Bill, where do you see Logan County going?
Oh, boy, you're asking. That's a pretty profound question. Well, I'll tell you one thing I don't see in Logan County, thank goodness. You go on the news today, and this country's run amok. Mm-hmm. People are demonstrating on the street, coming up behind somebody and hitting the back of the head, blindsiding them. We don't see that sort of thing here in Logan County, so we've got. I think we're more grounded here, and I think perhaps it's because we're a rural county.
Yes.
My roots are agricultural, due to my grandparents, and I'm certainly glad that's a fact. But I don't see us getting out of the mainstream. This is a mainstream county, which is a good thing.
What's your favorite things that you like about the county?
The stability. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. We'll walk down Broadway and we won't see the things we see on television now. But of course, having said that, the news people in the big broadcast area, they've gone nutty, and they clamor to show the stuff that we ought not to be privy to.
I believe they sensitize, or,
It's easy for you to say.
I can't say that.
Sensationalize.
Thank you. I'm tongue-tied this morning because you're here today.
No, I thought it was you're in the presence of legend.
Because I'm in the presence, yes.
By the way, I have to comment on the air. White's cleaned up and out since I was up here last.
Well, I knew you were showing up today, so I better fly right. So.
Mr. Ash has got him in an executive coach today.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking real nice.
We have a caller for you, Bill.
Oh, go right ahead, please, caller.
Good morning, Bill, and happy birthday.
Thank you very much, sir.
I would be interested to hear the things you've seen in your lifetime, the most interesting changes you've witnessed.
Oh, dear. Oh, my goodness.
That is a great question.
Well, you're asking me to cover 100 years, or at least 90 years, because your memory doesn't go back to you when you're 5. I didn't personally witness it, but 911, seeing that on television, that will be forever ingrained in anybody's mind, anybody who happened to see that on television. Things such as that. As far as locals concerned, that's too profound for me right now.
Have to give that one some thought, I guess.
Yeah, really. And at my age, giving something a thought is maybe iffy.
How long ago were you on the honor flight? How long has that been?
Well, it's going to be 11 years. And the reason I say that so distinctively, or so certainly, is I just asked Boise Cruisemark. He and I were together, and his son was our guardian. And I had coffee with him yesterday morning with the men at the Christian Village. And I said 10 years, and he said, no, it was 11 years.
Really?
Yeah. That, by the way, is a very, very fine organization. They've taken a lot of those old timers and treated us to something that we're not privileged to. And it's a marvelous thing that they do. And by the way, speaking of veterans things, I'm going to all of us have to have certain charities. We can't give to every charities, you know. We have to pick and choose. One of my favorite charities is Tunnels to Towers. And if you don't know the modus operandi of that, they'll take a widow of a veteran who is killed, and if they have a mortgage, they'll pay the mortgage for that, folks. And that's a very, very impressive thing. So that's one of my really favorite charities, Tunnels to Towers.
So on your trip, I know it was very memorable when you went out there to the honor flight.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you like about it the most, or what really stood out to you when you did that?
Their desire to serve us. When you get on that plane, you can't spend 5 cents. You go out there. But I want to tell you one thing. As you walk around the tour in Washington, and the first thing you come around the corner, and there's a Korean memorial. And if you're not familiar with it, it shows these soldiers. And you stand there transfixed, and I mean that. I just stopped and studied and stared at that. It means a lot to see. It depicts these men out on patrol, and you can see the wet coming off of their faces and all that. It's of all the things I saw, including the Iwo Jima Memorial and the Air Corps Memorial and all those. That was the one thing that stuck out here after all all these years now.
Wonderful. And you guys, did you have a big turnout when you guys landed, came back to Springfield?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, when we landed you land in a major airport. Not that Springfield's not a major airport, but it's a difference than a metropolitan like Chicago and Washington, D.C. and so forth. So they've got a lot of passengers that are going, hurrying and scurrying, going from plane to plane, and there's a lot of people moving around in these concourses. And when you go up the ramp and you hear this music, and you hear this clapping, and all you do is hear it. You can't see it. And you come up and get on that main floor, and there's hundreds of people standing around there, and they're clapping, and there's music playing for it. And I'll tell you, it's a moving thing.
That's neat.
Yeah, you mentioned the Air Corps Memorial. I believe, don't you have a story about you wanting to be a pilot and taking a test trying to do that?
Well, in fact, that's a World War II story, my story. Anyway, I trained in communications. And by the way, I got lucky. I enlisted I enlisted to be in the Air Corps so I wouldn't be in the infantry. Mm-hmm. And so I went through all the technical training schools, including radio school, and I was pretty good at it. I was better in the military schools than I was at the University of Illinois. In any event, I qualified pretty highly in that stuff, and they started assigning people to crews. And I worked up a real good code speed. I had a 25 word per minute code speed. That's did for those who don't know what I mean. And I wanted to be assigned to a bomber. Mm-hmm. And so we had to take another physical. And one of them was an eye test. And I said, oh boy, I'm dead in the water. So the way I passed the eye test is we lined up and around the corner, they put down Lloyd, and he'd sit in the chair and he'd read the eye chart. And so I signed that off. I just looked over his head while they were busy with him, and I memorized the smallest print I could memorize on the eye chart. Aced it. Felt real proud about that. Still not thinking far ahead because I'm wearing glasses, for goodness sake. About 6 weeks later, I got called in by the flight surgeon. And I reported wearing glasses. I couldn't find my way across the airfield without my glasses. And he said, Gossett, yes, sir. When you came into this man's army, you were 2100. The other day, you passed the flight exam, or the eye exam, at 2015. How do you account for that? I'd stand there with my mouth dropping open. I said, well, sir, I really want to fly. I've been drinking a lot of carrot juice. To which he replied, "Explicative, son." Let me have those glasses. And I handed him my glasses, and he took one look, says, "I'm sorry, son, you're grounded." He probably saved my life.
Yeah.
Because at that time we were losing a lot of bomber crews. So that was my big expedition into the air on bombers. But the way he handled me was pretty clever.
Oh, yeah.
He trapped me, let me trap myself.
That darn carrot juice just didn't kick in enough.
Of all the sick excuses I ever heard, that had to be the worst I could have come up with. But he had me dead to rights, and I knew it.
Oh my goodness.
But then, along with your military service, you've mentioned before on the air that about Lincoln Developmental Center out at I think it was the gymnasium, where a crew of you were you initiated into
the largest largest class that was inducted into the American Legion.
That's what
and we
it was.
did it in the gymnasium at the old state school. Doc W.W. Fox was superintendent then, and it was in his honor. And it was the timing was right, because this was early, the spring of 43. And, 45. Anyway, they enlisted a whole bunch of guys in the American Legion at that time. And I'm very proud to be a Legionnaire all those years since. They do a lot of good. By the way, I want to take another minute. We have another military organization that does a whole lot, and that's the Marine Corps League. And they do a lot of good out here where I live, and particularly the Christian homes. One day I was in Walmart, and I asked to see the manager, and I introduced myself, and I told him I was a resident of the Christian village. And I said, it'd be a nice thing if you could donate some flags for their homes out there. Well, he bought into that, and he gave us a flag for each duplex and 3 big flags for the flagpoles out there. And the reason I mention that is the Marine Corps League, they take that under their belt, and they maintain those.
That's
And
wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, we've got another caller. Caller, go ahead.
Oh, my goodness. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, Jim knows who I am by my voice. I call in a little bit now and then, but not often. I guess you'd say I just lay back and listen. But it's good to hear you back on the radio. I wish you could come back full time again. You're very, very interesting to listen to. And I want to wish you a happy birthday and long live more.
Thank you very much. I'd come back, but Mr. Ash has higher standards.
Okay.
He got somebody there who knows what the heck they're doing.
No. I'm just humbled to take it on and to keep the tradition going. So, anyway.
I realize that, sometimes in your life, all good things must come to an end, and I've had that in the last few years. My son passed away, and I had to sell the farmstead, and kept the acreage but sold the farmstead. So that was very disheartening. Down. So, but I'd like to hear you every time you're on the radio. I love to hear you. So,
thank you, but you got to find more time to do something substantial.
Well, really, you think so? No, it's I've had several bouts with kidneys and liver and so forth, over medication, and the last couple of weeks and last month, and but I made it through it, so I'm still above the dirt. So that's
a good place to stay, is above the dirt. I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, okay. Well, you just keep kicking, and kick a little harder.
I'm going to be above the dirt for in perpetuity, because I'm going down to the Camp Butler, so I'm always going to be above the dirt. Say, by the way, on a serious note, seated to my left here is a gentleman by the name of Joe Weiss. He lives out to Christian Village, and we were neighbors before they moved me over to the Timber Creek. And Joe chauffeurs me around tonight. My kids found that I probably ought not to be driving, and then one day I walked out in the garage and the car was gone. but you know, I didn't feel badly about it. Well, I felt badly about it, but I didn't blame my children at all. They did the right thing. Somebody gets to be almost 100 years old and probably ought not to be out on the street. So everything they've done in my favor has worked out very well. But Joe Weiss chauffeurs me around, which I appreciate very much. He's my chauffeur du jour.
That's good.
Bill, I thank you very much for the comment.
Yes.
I haven't got to that point yet. I'm still driving, but there will be a day.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. We've
Thank
got
you very
another call for Bill.
Oh, my goodness. Go right ahead, please, caller.
Go ahead. Can you hear us? Oh, sorry. Can you hear us now, caller?
I think I might hang up on you.
Oh.
Nope.
Who just called in? Please return the call. Jim accidentally disconnected it. So, oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. There we are. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning,
wanted
sir.
to wish you a happy birthday and thank you for everything you've done for the community.
Thank you very, very much. That's very nice of you.
This is Don Peasley, isn't it?
Oh. Oh, well, he watches me carefully. Don always asks me how I feel when I see him.
Well, enjoyed your birthday party and hope you have many, many more.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that a lot, Don.
All right. Take care,
Very
Bill.
nice of you.
Thanks, Don, for calling. Yes, Don does get a lot of razzing for his
Well,
profession.
he showed up at my birthday party, and I said, I'm feeling fine, Don.
We've got another caller for you. Go ahead,
Go right
caller.
ahead.
Hey, Bill.
Good morning.
Hi. I'm enjoying all the laughing here going on, but I wanted to tell you I didn't get to come to your birthday party. I was under the weather. This is Joanne Marlin from the Burton View area.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much for that, Joanne. Yes.
Your cake looked delicious and everything, and I got to see the video they did. And just wanted to wish you another happy 100 more years.
Well, thank you very much. To tell you the truth, my mantra is, and I mean this sincerely, God's been very good to me down through my long years. He's been very good. He's cut me off a couple streaks. He had that flight surgeon take care of me, and I've missed 2 or 3 near fatalities. So I'm a lucky man.
Well, Burton View is proud of you also, and all of Lincoln. Thanks for all you do, and keep on going.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, neighbor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joanne. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate that. Again, callers, if you want to call in and talk to Bill, the number's 217-648-5510. Speaking of Burton View, before we went on the air, you had a little funny story about Burton View.
Yes, well, that was my mother's roots. Mm-hmm. My mother's family, the Sisson family, had a lot of ground out there, and so. By the way, Ron Betzelberger the other day had the old man just lost it. He had
I tell you what, we got a call, so
good.
You can
Go
take
right
a
ahead,
break.
please.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we don't.
Caller, go ahead.
They were.
Oh, hello, caller.
Well, it's time they talk to somebody else. I've had enough. I don't need to be taking this airtime.
No, this airtime is yours.
We ought to be talking about something going around in the community.
We are good. We are. So, quick, briefly, they need to hear this story about Burton View.
Well, he had a reunion. Mr. Betzelberger had a reunion of Burton View School graduates. Well, and he asked me to come because he knew my roots were in Burton View. And so it was a very nice gathering. But I remembered going there with my mother's sisters. She had twin sisters, and they took me to Burton View School once. So I became acquainted with the Burton View School one visit.
And your family donated ground, was that correct?
Yes, I had a great grandmother who donated ground to the community for the use of education. And a short time ago, I discovered by accident, she had a caveat in the legal agreement that if it ever ceased to become used for educational purposes, it would revert to her family. So I said to my brother, we could sure create a lot of problems.
Where was the school at for our listeners there at
Well, it's just
Burtonview?
off of Route 10, and on your left side on what I call the Burtonview-Emden Blacktop,
Okay.
which is the only street that goes through Burtonview.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I remember when they used to have a general store that pumped gas out there.
Really? So was the school then on the west side of the road or on the
The school
east
was
side?
on the west side of the road.
Okay. Okay. Since I
Just
go past
just
there.
before you come up to a little slough.
Uh-huh.
There. And the burger ground is just
Yes.
next to that.
Right next to that then.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I go past there every day to go home.
Bow your head in prayer.
I will. I will do so. I will do so.
That road has a memory for me because when I was younger, my dad thought it would be a good idea to work for my grandparents and keep me off the streets of Lincoln, how dangerous they were. In any event, seriously, school would be, I'd say, on Friday, and the next Monday I'd be at Burtonview, packed and to be with my grandparents during the summer. And when harvest time came, I had a lot of things to do that my granddad would assign me. And finally I got promoted to drive the grain wagon. Now remember, this is horse-drawn days. This is before the advent of tractors so much. And I got promoted to drive a grain wagon to the elevator. And going back, and a horse is going to go home. I don't care if we're in the mountains or in Mount Pulaski. The horse knows where to go home, and the horse is going to go home. And they started to trot. Well, I just sat back and let them trot. Well, when we turned into that mile-long lane, they were lathered with saddle soap and sweat and so forth. My granddad was a very unhappy man. I got demoted.
How old were you when you were?
I was about 10 years old then.
Really?
Yeah. I was pretty young to have a team of horses.
How many horses did you guys use then on a wagon? Was it 2 or 4?
Well, there was 2 on a horse-drawn wagon to go to the elevator. And
Okay.
you know how this might be something to you there. You know how they emptied the wagons, the grain wagons?
How did that? I was going to ask.
Well, those wagons had 2 big hubs. Well, they had 4 big hubs. They had 4 wheels, of course, and they'd loop a big loop of rope around the front hubs and raise it that way physically, and then it would just slide out the back end of the.
Really?
Yeah, that's how they emptied them.
That's neat. That is neat. Now you had horse-drawn, basically a combine picker then when you guys shelled corn then or picked corn.
Well, those days
What you doing this?
Well, those are the days when the neighbors all cooperated with one another. They'd go from farm to each other's farm to help their neighbors out and finish the threshing. And that was a big deal. Neighbors. Oh, the big deal about that was how well you ate. The neighbor ladies all came to that house and everybody pitched in. It was a big deal. It shows the way people can get together. We don't have so much that anymore. My grandfather had the first J.I. case tractor was ever born in this community. Big old steel lugs, and it had a big tool shed on the steering post, and he wrapped that in burlap and binder, and I sat in front of him all day long while we'd work in the field.
How did you meet your wife, your beautiful bride?
Well, thank you for that, and she is. A mutual friend called me one day and she said, "Do you know Jean Brown?" And I said, "Yeah, I know who she is." "Well, why don't you call her and we'll double date?" And that's how that happened.
That's how that
That was
happened.
1948. We were married in 49. That's 74 years.
That's wonderful.
God's been good to us. He gave us 2 good boys when we adopted 2 boys because of surgery making it impossible for Jean to have children. And we didn't do anything but say we wanted infants, period. That's the only requirement. And we got infants. We got 10 days and 3 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
We got infants.
You did.
And they turned out exceptionally well. We're very proud of them.
Oh, that's great. That is wonderful. How many grandchildren do you guys have?
6.
6?
Yeah. amazing, and we are so lucky. We are so lucky. And we have 3 great grands down there, but in Springfield, the apple of our eyes. And we're lucky. God's been good to us, exceptionally so.
That's wonderful. When did you guys retire from the dry cleaners, from your business?
Well, I've been trying about 25 years now, I think. Yeah, at least. You know why I retired? I was up on a ladder trying to screw into the wall, putting in some draperies. I couldn't see the screws, and I came off that ladder, and I said, "That's enough." I've reached my limit.
You didn't try drinking more carrot juice?
Yeah, carrot juice didn't help.
I worked that pretty well.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Well, I know athletics and sports was a big part of your youth. I recall the Soup nickname that you shared with us. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your experiences with that, around baseball, and you mentioned before about the Oddfellows home and
athletically, the real athlete in my family was my father. He was an outstanding athlete, and he was somebody way back when he was a kid hung soup on him, and it went to me. And my athletic prowess was so-so. But I participated a lot by staying close to, for instance, my dad suggested to me, he knew I wasn't a football player or a basketball player, and he says, "Why don't you ask Coach Anderson, you can be his manager." Well, that tied me into that for the next 4 years in high school. And when I went away to college, I was a hockey manager over at the University of Illinois. That was a fun thing. The University of Illinois had a great hockey team at one point in time. Their coach was Vic Heiliger, who was a Chicago Blackhawk player.
Wow.
And it was a big deal. So, all hockey players are pretty volatile, whether they're teammates or their opposition. And they get into scraps and so forth. So the Illini hockey team got into a fight at scraps one time. And the coach says, "Go out there and see if you can save me." So I go out there and grab a big guy like you. I grab me by the shirt. Come on, Joe. Guy grabbed me by the back of the neck and the seat of the pants and skated me over and dumped me over the side. He says, "If we want help, little man, we'll call on you." That was my athletic problem.
Your one shining moment, huh? Now, was hockey, you say you managed the hockey team at the U of I. Had you had previous hockey team experience managing?
No.
I wondered if there was like one here in Lincoln that we didn't know about.
No. I was just neophyte. I just went over there to see if I could sign on, and they took me. The hockey rink was right opposite the Armory building there, which is where I enlisted in the Air Corps. And I can remember that right now. I can tell you that man's name who enlisted me, Captain McClintock.
And didn't he have a little message for you after you...
Yes, I put my hand down. He says, "Well, son, you're ours now." I found out later when I went into active service what he meant.
What did you graduate from the U of I with? What degree did you get?
Oh, I didn't get graduated. I enlisted on that campus over there. And I enlisted because I wanted to try to be in charge of my own fate. I wanted to be in the Air Corps rather than the infantry.
Okay.
That was a smart thing, by the way.
Yeah. So when you didn't pass your test, let's circle back to that. What job did they give you then?
What I did? What, honey?
In the Air Force, when you didn't pass your eye test.
Oh, yeah.
To be so what did you do from there?
They sent me to more technical schools. I ended up at Chanute Field at Rantoul, 15 or so miles from the University of Illinois, which is a big thing for me. Anyway, went radio teletype school, and apparently I was good enough. They asked me to. Well, they told me, they didn't ask me in the military. They told me that I was going to stay there and be a teacher.
Oh.
And I said, "Well, I've got a request in to go overseas." And he said, "Yeah, we know that, but we need you." So I taught radio teletype there at Chanute Field for probably a couple of months, and then they finally acceded to my request to go overseas.
Wow.
And then where did you go overseas?
Well, it turned out that my ability to do well in those technical schools paid off very handsomely for me. I got assigned to Orly Field, which was the O'Hare of Chicago, of Paris. It was a big airport. And as soon as we kicked the Germans out, the Allied government, military kicked the Germans out, the Allied government took over Orly Field. And it was a busy, busy, busy place. And it had a communications center. And I was assigned to that. And I was assigned to the circuit between European Theater of Operations and the Pentagon. And so that was interesting.
How long were you stationed there for?
About a year.
About a year.
Yes. But
Neat.
So once again, if you have questions or comments or just want to wish Mr. Gossett well, 217-648-5510. Do we need to satisfy our sponsors with a break here?
We need to do a quick break then.
Why don't we go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with more with Bill Gossett right after this.
And we're back on WLCN 96.3 Viewpoint with our very own legend, Mr. Bill Gossett.
oh dear.
You are.
Oh,
and we
dear.
do have a caller waiting on the line for him. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Bill. It's Teresa, the county clerk, with our staff here, and we just wanted to say happy birthday and how blessed we are to have known you and been part of our lives.
Thank you very, very much. You know, I'm sitting here thinking, when I was a kid, they used to have a radio program, This Is Your Life. And I'm sitting here, my goodness gracious, there's a lot of people in town, tons of people who've done a lot more than I have around here. And I'm very, very grateful, and I'm very humbled by this at all.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful to have known you and appreciate everything you've said and done in our office, too.
Thank you the way you serve us out here in Logan County. You did a great job up there.
I appreciate that, Bill.
All right, thank you, dear.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, Teresa, and staff.
This is just really kind of overwhelming. My wife's going to be hard to live with.
More than usual?
More than
usual.
That's a fact, yes. Oh, I'm just humbled. I really am.
But you've touched so many lives. You really, really have. You've been an inspiration to so many people. And you're just an outstanding, wonderful person.
I owe that to my parents. I was a lucky man. I drew a great set of parents. My mother's was well-grounded, country girl out of the farm in Burtonview. Married a man who was born dirt poor, and I mean that's seriously, dirt poor. And he determined that was not going to define him. And when he died, he was a very, very popular man in this community. So much so that a guy flew all the way back from Seattle, Washington, just to be a pallbearer, and got on a plane the next day and flew back to Seattle.
Really?
Now that speaks volumes, and that's just burned into my heart that happened. Well, it's like happened Saturday. Kid drove all the way from Connecticut to be here. Mm-hmm. His brother drove all the way up from Tennessee. That pounds at you.
It does.
I'm extremely humbled by that.
It does. What did your dad do for a living?
He was a dry cleaner, and that's why I'm still at the community. I was going to go back to school while I was in Europe, and Dad got sick while I was over there during the war, and my mother had her hands full. She had 2 kids at home and a partner of my father's that was not a very nice man, and my mother went to work in the dry cleaning business. And so when I came home, it was just almost ordained that I was not going to go back to school. I was going to go into business. So that's how that happened.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Well, hi, Marcia. Hang on just a second.
Mm-hmm.
We have another call for you.
Hang on.
Okay.
I think you might recognize this voice.
Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Bill Gossett. It's Marcia.
Oh, my dear. Good morning. Here's a gal. Now, you talk about community service. Here's a gal that really hit the ball out of the park. She helped us so much in the community, particularly for the people out there to Christian homes.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know I do it because I love you, all right?
Well, you sure show that.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you still recuperating from your big day on Saturday?
It'll take me about a month to recuperate from that.
I bet you went home on Saturday and took a long nap, didn't you?
I was tired. I'm
sure you were.
Yeah. Even my knees gave out from my knees gave out from standing and sitting.
Yes. At Men's Coffee Tuesday at the Christian Village, Bill showed up a little bit late because I think he dislikes to be fashionably late. But Boise was already there, and of course Boise will be 102 in January. And he turned around and he just grinned from ear to ear when he saw Bill, and he said, "So, Bill, how's it feel to be 100 now?" And it was funny because they belong to that special club, at 3 digits.
Boise Cruisemark is a well-respected gentleman in this community. He's just a great guy. I found that 100 is not such a big deal out where I live. I'm a neophyte.
I agree with that. Well, I'm sure everybody's really glad to hear your voice on the radio again this morning, Bill.
Well, thank you. I think it could be a little bit boring, but thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're not ever boring.
No, never boring. Never.
Does the man who they auction off at fundraisers to have dinner with you just so they can sit and talk to you all day?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I'm actually in Arlington Heights, so I'm going to get off the phone because we're getting ready to leave, but I wanted to call and say good morning to everybody, and Bill, you have a great day.
Drive carefully, my dear. You're very important to us.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for calling in.
Sure. Bye-bye.
I do want to share something with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Boise Cruisemark is my cousin. Well, distant cousin, yes.
Seriously?
Yes,
Yeah.
from Emden. Mm-hmm.
Well, Jim was our guardian. Jim and I were the guardians for Boise.
Okay.
Yeah, so it worked out. I was so pleased and so tickled to go on that honor flight that I volunteered to be a guardian. They told me I was too old. Broke my heart. but when I got thinking about it, they were right. I couldn't lift a wheelchair in and out of the back of a bus. My back would not allow that.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I was too old.
Do you know off the top of your head, what is the age requirement to be or not to be a guardian there? What's the cutoff?
Well, I really don't know, honey.
Okay.
Physically, be more important than age.
That's true. That's true. Physically, yes.
That's a great organization. They really, and my brother was involved in that deeply out in the state of Arizona. And when you stop to think about it, it's an overnight. Not overnight, but you go up there the day before, and you probably stay at the motel, or you should, because you got to be there at crack of dawn. Mm-hmm. And from Springfield to Washington, D.C., but you move further west where Jack was out there in Arizona. That's a big deal for those folks. That's a long airplane ride.
That is a long airplane ride, yes.
Yeah.
Very tiring.
Yeah.
That's neat. It's neat.
Just to recap, that was Marcia Fernandez on the line. I know we said Marcia, but I'm not sure we ever fully gave her name. And of course, she's active with the Marine Corps League and several other
veterans organizations. She helps out. She's very big on honor flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Oh, I hear the phone's ringing again.
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air with Bill.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Bill. This is Renee Martin from Mount Pulaski.
Oh, the Martin family. Boy, you're close to my heart. My mother and father were very, very close friends of Harry and Louise.
Well, I just wanted to say happy birthday, and sorry I couldn't make it to your party, but I hope you had a great time. And
well, I was disappointed. I stood out front waiting for you.
Well, next time you come into Senator Turner's office, I'll give you a hug, or next time I see you. So.
Could we go right there, Joe?
He's coming right over right now. So.
Okay. I'll be waiting.
Thank you, dear, very, very much. Appreciate that a lot.
Yep. Happy birthday.
All right, Renee. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. That's out of the past now. The Martin family were a solid family over there in Mount Pulaski, and they were friends of my mother's and father's, and that's how I got to know them years back.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we had was it Steve who was here for the Mount Pulaski courthouse before?
Yes.
It's the same family.
Yeah, same family. Yeah.
Small world.
It is a small world. It is.
Yeah, so once again, if you have questions, comments, or well wishes for our latest, I had to look it up. Is it centenarian?
Centurion.
Something like that. Our 100 years young guest, Mr. Bill Gossett, 217-648-5510, the number to call. And walking encyclopedic knowledge of Logan County is I know for the year plus that I sat next to you on the Viewpoint, I always amazed how you could just recall those facts about, there used to be this building here or this program there, and it's pretty remarkable. I guess you see a thing or two in 100 years.
Yeah, that's right. But to put this thing in perspective, my mother was a close social friend of the choral director at Lincoln High School, Frances Mantle, lovely lady, and they were close social friends. So I graduated from Central School, go from the 8th grade to a freshman, and my mother was tickled to death I was going to be under Miss Mantle's jurisdiction. And so one day, sitting around playing cards, she said to her, "Frances, how's Billy doing in choral group?" And Frances said, "I hate to disappoint you, Edna, but your kids can't sing." So that was my experience in the choral group. And to this day, I don't sing.
But does Jean sing?
No, not well. I mean, some people are blessed with it.
Right, with the voice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But she would tell you that she's not one of those that's blessed.
One of those, yes. Yeah.
And speaking of, we talked about some of the different activities and organizations you've been involved in. You and Jean, of course, very active with the Lincoln Community Theater for many, many years. And
yeah, let's don't leave her out of this equation. She's been extremely important to my life, of course, but she's also contributed her part of her own activities and talent to the community. And she was one of the original founders of Lincoln Community Theater.
Yeah, I remember, was that 1972, I believe? You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown? Or was it?
I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Did she do a lot of acting or not?
Yeah. That was her forte.
That was her forte.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. We have another caller. Caller, go ahead.
We never had that many callers in a long time. Why don't you people get out there and find something important to do? Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, Bill. Just wishing you one more happy birthday.
Oh.
I have my favorite saying is, since you were such good friends with my mother and father, that you and Jean are among some of the best things I inherited.
That's a very, very, really, that's a nice thing. This girl's the daughter of one of my high school classmates. A very lovely lady. Thank you, my dear.
Well, carry on, because we have social engagements down the road, so we'll be seeing you and Jean very soon.
Thank you very much. I'll look forward to that.
Fun show today. Thanks, Jim and Dara.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate
See you soon, Bill.
All right, soon, honey. Thank you. That was a very lovely couple.
That's wonderful.
A lovely couple. And he's a musician. He's a member of a group that gets together, or did get together often, and he was a drummer. And recently he was up north, and the group that he used to play with put on a benefit dancer, not a dance, but a benefit show, and it was very successful. Gene and I are blessed to have them as friends.
That's wonderful. It's neat.
That's the best thing you can do going through life, is have solid friends that you can count on.
Mm-hmm.
People who are grounded, and I mean that in every sense of the word.
You've mentioned before when you were hosting the show about your parents and your mom being very grounded, and time or two, I think you said maybe you got to taste a little bit of soap in your mouth for
Well, in fact, yes, I know exactly what palm olives taste like. I used a bad word. I never used it again in her presence, I can tell you that. And she was serious about it. Yeah. And I'll tell you how serious she was about it. When Marian Anderson was scheduled to sing at the, for goodness sake, the Woody's organization in Washington, and they wouldn't let her sing. And my mother, Daughters of the American Revolution, that's what it was. My mother was so proud to be a DAR, and when they wouldn't let her sing at their building in Washington, D.C., she tore up her membership card in the Senate to the president of the association. That's how strong she was in her feelings.
Wow.
Marian Anderson was a black singer of some renown. But my mother, she was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. What words of advice do you have for our young generation now?
Well, don't be important to yourself. Think of other people. There's a lot of people in the community who need a little extra help in many ways sometimes. Be kind to somebody. I read on Facebook, and I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but I've got a lot of time on my hands now, so sometimes I sit there and look at that. You read about people doing extra nice things for people. Keep that as your mantra. Don't be important to yourself.
It's wonderful. Great message. A great message.
Well, I've been very lucky. That's the way I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy take me aside one day. I was coming out of the post office, and he called me over to the side of the steps of the post office. He said, "I want to tell you about your old man." And he proceeded to tell me what a great guy my father was. Boy, I finished my step down there. I missed about 3 steps. I was stepping so high. And that made me feel real good.
It does make you feel good. That does. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, calling in, wishing our one and only Bill Gossett 100 years young. We appreciate you. We love you, Bill. You're wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
From all of us here at WLCN, we're in awe and we thank you so much.
Does this mean you're going to stop at Glendale or Old Tap so I can have one?